What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It is the Wrestling Matt. Hello. How's it going? I am Matt Camp. I'm glad to be with you right here. As always, thewrestlingmattshow.com. It's right above Todd. Hello to the Matt members out there. Hopefully you're ready for another, well, it's going to be an interesting week in the world. Yes, indeed. What up, nerdy dude? Hello to the Matt members out there getting this live at 11 a.m. Eastern, as you do every single weekday. For everybody else, 5 p.m. Eastern podcast here at thewrestlingmattshow.com. But the Matt members get it at 11 a.m. Eastern. Become a Matt member at thewrestlingmattshow.com. Working on some stuff for later this week. So stay tuned for that. Survivor Series coming up. Not trying to necessarily do something about all of the shows or watching a full 3-hour show or anything like that. But I want to maybe pick out some Survivor Series memorable moments that we could watch here. So, and only because I saw it over the weekend, Brett versus Stone Cold, Survivor Series 1996. Might do a watch party of that because it's such a good match. And not a coincidence that I'm wearing my Calgary Hitmen jersey that I happen to spot today. Thank you, B-May. It is sick. I love this jersey. The white one's awesome. This is like the old one from way back. They have a different, I feel like a little more simple jerseys now, but yeah, this was a Christmas gift, I think, from like my dad a long time ago. So yeah, brought it back out. Love to get more of these. Brett stuff, all of Brett's stuff is good. The pink and black, it goes a long way. Also, you can go to ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMatt. Get your Wrestling Matt merch. Nerdy Dude has gotten a few shirts. He's posted them. And we reposted them. And we talked about it a little bit on our social media at WrestlingMatt23. You could follow us on Twitter and Instagram. So go check that out. By the way, if you're a Matt member, you get discounts on Wrestling Matt merch at ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMatt. Also, while you're over there, nothing to do with me, just sharing something that I think is important. There is a new Chris Bay shirt up, and I apologize if I get this wrong, and I'm really doing this off the cuff. There's a new Chris Bay shirt up, and I believe Pro Wrestling Tees posted that someone important, whatever, in the pro wrestling community said they would match up to $10,000 in the sale of that shirt. So make sure you go check that out. A lot of people thinking of Chris Bay right now, dealing with that broken neck, and what's that going to mean for his life and career. Everybody I have talked to about him has nothing but good things to say. So something you can go check out while you're also at ProWrestlingTees.com. As we get into, well, there's that where people are helping people. God, I hope that is the theme of this week. If you get what I mean. What went on this weekend at WWE Crown Jewel? I think we all know what. None of this is going anywhere, right? I didn't like promoting it when I worked there. But at some point, those shows for a bit had more of a regular spot within creative. Like it was still part of, building to something. And not to say that happened. That didn't happen over the weekend at Crown Jewel. But I think at the beginning, it was a big-ass house show. And not a lot came from it. Why we have been talking about Braun Strowman win the greatest Royal Rumble and that green belt that we never saw again. That's what a lot of the early Saudi shows were. And, booking these random matches just to get the star power on there. I remember that Cena Triple H match. I mean, there was some, random stuff just for star power. And it felt like kind of an all-star game house show, and let's take care of what the Saudis want. And then it started to become more of a show where things mattered, finishes mattered, Storylines got finishes. Storylines got told the right way, or not to take away from how unfortunately charged the conversation is about going there. Because, like I said, it doesn't feel great. And I said this a few times in the last couple weeks, that it felt like this show, this past weekend, was getting in the way of booking, was a nuisance to deal with, was getting in the way of what has been a strong reheating of the Bloodline story before Saturday. The last two SmackDowns, everything with Jimmy and Jay and Roman and Sammy as of last Monday, you can see it in the way the crowd reacts. You can hear it in the way the crowd reacts. It's people wanted to see them come back together. There hasn't been a comeback like that since the Shield came back together. But I even thought that was sloppy, and it was. This is being done a lot better. This is being done where, hey, we love these guys. We know they're stars. We like everything they do. Now we have every reason to cheer them because you've put them up against, the new Bloodline, the bad guys, the guys that have done nothing but beat up heels and gone after Roman and Jimmy and Jay and all that. They're trying to be the more dangerous, bloodthirsty. Okay, cool. And they've done a great job with that. And I was legitimately surprised that they, number one, even booked the new Bloodline versus OG Bloodline in a match before Survivor Series. Could not believe that was done. And the teaming up was done on this show. And only announced, and this is the other part of it, last Monday. And only announced last Monday because I assume they wanted to try to get some kind of promotion out of it. Because the problem was, and this is what I couldn't talk about because I didn't want to spoil the show for anybody, the reunion angle on SmackDown with Roman and Jay and the Yeet and people going nuts and that should have aired before the match was announced. Like that was a Vince pilled move. Not saying he's around. I'm just saying we got to get it out there. How are Jay and Roman cool teaming? They didn't have a conversation yet. Why are we announcing that match? Like they did it out of order. That's exactly what happened. They did it out of order. And it's a hot product right now, and people want to see them tag up. So guess what? It's okay. And it got the reaction, and it got a reaction on Saturday. But it was very much just skipping a step for the hell of it. Because they needed to. Because they happened to double tape. Maybe write that story a week earlier. Maybe everything moves up a week. So you don't have to announce a match that really makes no sense in terms of the relationship between Roman and Jay. I know it was already taped. I get that. But in canon, it didn't air till Friday. Nothing had happened yet until Friday. I don't get that. And as I said, I think there you go. This show was a nuisance. And you had a 7-match card turn into, for all intents purposes, a house show. A house show with 2 TV angles. That was this show. a house show with two fairly well done, by the way, TV angles. No championships changed hands. And yet, two champions lost. The opening match should have felt like a much bigger deal, and it wasn't. After those entrances, that settled in to a house show 6-man tag. And they did something that I am not sure is going to get the result they want. I don't know how many people were expecting Roman Reigns to get pinned on Saturday. I was not. I thought the new Bloodline had to win in some way, but they did not see Solo pinning Roman. Now, that gets back to a conversation I've had a lot in the last couple of weeks on this show, on Busted Open. Talked about it on Bleacher Report. There is something in Solo Sikoa. I don't think they have done him any favors in terms of his development with going from the silent enforcer to the leader of a group where he has to be the mouthpiece and cut promos every week. I think he's starting to come into his own in the last month. I think he's feeling more confident in the role. I think he's playing the role better. But it was always going to be an uphill journey to present the new Bloodline on the same level of the old Bloodline, which you can make the argument from a continuity standpoint, from a consistency standpoint, from the members that were in the group for just about the entire run. The original Roman, Jay, Jimmy, Sammy, Solo, Heyman Bloodline was as dominant as any bloodline in the history of pro wrestling. So now you're trying to put together a group that could be legit challengers to them. And it's been tough. Now, Roman should have been taken out a couple times, and he was. And Jimmy having to tell, we need help. Okay, I get all of that. They had Solo Sikoa pin Roman Reigns on Saturday. Roman has lost to Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes. Am I missing anything? Solo Sikoa, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Baron Corbin. That win for Solo Sikoa should be a big deal. I don't know if it's viewed that way. I don't know if his standing in the eyes of the fans of not being on the level of Roman, and not necessarily being on the level, because nobody could be on that level. Not after the run, not after how he was booked. But did Solo get put on that level? And did they throw away a loss for Roman Reigns? His second match back, he loses in a 3-on-3 match, 4-on-3 situation. But let's be honest here. Did Tonga Loa really tip the scales? I get it. There was tension. I just saw Nerdy Dude say it. I've seen it in the chat. There was tension between Roman and Jay. I get that. That's fine. Rob brings up the 2022 Rumble. I remember standing in the crowd for this, Rob. Seth defeats Roman by DQ. Not really a loss. Exactly. And if you ask Xavier Woods, and I agree with him, he beat Roman by DQ. They called it a no contest because they literally just changed the rules so Roman wouldn't have a loss. The booking was very lazy in that Woods DQ win when they called it a no contest, even though there's a clear disqualification with the actions of the Usos, and they beat up Woods, and that was the end of the crown, and they buried his King of the Ring gimmick. He beat him. But the 2022 Rumble, just to show, thank you for bringing that up, Rob, the importance of beating Roman Reigns, that 2022 Royal Rumble. Oh, you're going to give me a little story time here, Rob, because I just thought of something. At the 2022 Royal Rumble in St. Louis, Seth came out that night in the old Shield gear. And people lost their minds. Now, remember, Seth was technically a heel during this time. But people did want to see Seth win. This is also the same night Bobby Lashley faces Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. Because Roman got COVID and couldn't wrestle Brock at day one. So they put Brock into the WWE Championship 5-way when he beat E. So E's title ended. And then they did Bobby and Brock. And this is when Paul was with Brock and then sides with Roman and cost Brock the title, and Bobby wins in a match where he gets beat up. This is a mess, an absolute mess of a show. The 2022 Royal Rumble. This is the Shane Book Rumble. This is all that stuff. So Seth, they booked themselves into a corner where Seth, they didn't want to beat him. So they did the DQ finish. And it opened the show. I remember I was like, oof. Because the crowd came up big for Seth coming out in the Shield gear. The mind games were great. Now, I was told that during that time, they wanted to keep, this was an internal thing, Seth in the conversation with Roman and Brock. Now, this is the year they do Brock Roman winner take all WrestleMania, which is why after Brock lost the title to Bobby Lashley, then Bobby got concussed and taken out of the chamber, and then Theory got tossed off the pod, and Brett Lesnar won the title back, and Roman just marched right on, and Roman Brock. That was what we were told. Keep Seth. We were showing different, they were having digital cut these different videos that kept Seth in this universe and talking about their wins and WrestleMania. And I'm going, are we getting to Seth, Roman, and Brock at WrestleMania? Now, it ended up being Seth and Cody. But remember, Seth didn't really have an opponent. They did that whole thing with mystery guy and who's it going to be, and everybody knew it was going to be Cody at that point. But it seemed very clear that they did not have an answer for Seth. So they do the DQ, and I'm going, put Seth in this match. Seth had found it a little bit more again. And they didn't. Seth gets Cody, and that ended up being a hell of a story in its own right, and showed how valuable Seth has been in terms of putting guys over and being that viable main eventer to be in these spots. Seth and I mean this in the best way possible, Seth has been the ultimate main event utility man, but has remained in the main event for the most part. The Bronson stuff's more mid-cardy now, and that's fine. But it shows you Seth by DQ, Jay by pinfall in the tag match, Cody at WrestleMania, and Solo Sikoa. Since the Bloodline run has been going, those are your 4 losses for Roman Reigns. But Solo joins Cody and Jay as the only 2 guys to pin Roman Reigns. But does it feel as big as that? Think about how big the Jay win was celebrated. How big it was put over on commentary by Michael Cole. How it got him a title match at SummerSlam. How they didn't want to beat him clean in that one, so Jimmy got involved. And then, of course, Cody. That's the golden victory. Did it feel like Solo won a big one. If you're going to make such a big deal about Jay pinning Roman, when it was very clearly Jimmy and Jay who put Roman down, it's a 6-man tag. Roman Reigns got pinned. Roman Reigns has won 4 ways before. He's won multi-man title defenses. He's done it. It didn't feel like Solo's win was all that important, because as soon as Solo won, which should have been in its own standout moment, as soon as Solo won, they run the angle with Sammy, which was good. Believe me, I thought it was the high spot of the whole show. Shitty commentary aside, Sammy can do what he wants. Sammy's a good person. Anyway, they run the angle with Sammy, and it felt a little quick to put everybody back together, and he kicks Roman. And I was he's going to kick Roman. And he did. And now you still have these 4 weeks to iron that out. And Raw was taped. I'm not going to talk about it. It's already done. It's in the can. They filmed it yesterday in Saudi. First Saudi Raw. Woohoo. So they have that they're gonna play out. But it was a TV angle. It was a close down SmackDown or Raw angle. Big brawl. Sammy kicks Roman. He bails. Jimmy and Jay are going back and forth. What happened? What'd you do? Blah, 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 blah. And you ran a real good TV angle to open the show. And it pretty much overshadowed Solo winning a match by pinning Roman Reigns. It's almost like they wanted to hide the loss in a way. But it's a TV angle. Period. And yes, Rob, it looks like the last one prior to 2022, Corbin defeated Roman at TLC. Yes, that is true. Shout out to Corbin. Yes, Tom, Baron Corbin. I know this happened on Friday. Really unfortunate to see the news he is done with WWE. I will join a lot of people who either worked with him or knew him or saw how good he was. A heel through and through who did whatever he was told, who got put in some real bad spots at times. I don't think his value was ever truly appreciated. Did his best to make anything work. A lot of stuff did, and other stuff didn't. He knew what his job was in that company, and he often did it quite well, even in the face of dog food and random teams he'd be put in, and Constable and King, and he did a lot with a little at times. Got himself over in NXT, and think about this. I don't think this gets brought up enough. Baron Corbin's rise in NXT was really an anomaly of what was happening in NXT at the time. That time in NXT was about these great indie workers and people who had an indie reputation or name value, and Finn Balor and Hideo Itami and being Kenta and Fergal Devitt and KO and all this, and Corbin is nothing like any of those guys, or men or women, because you have obviously Bayley from the Indies and Mercedes coming from the Indies and Becky coming from the Indies, and at that time, if you were a homegrown or a FCW person, you were pretty much getting overshadowed. And NXT changed what they were from what FCW was to how NXT was promoted and what they put together. When it really hit, Baron Corbin found himself as a very good, reliable, big heel that if people were able to overcome him, it felt like something. He wanted absolutely nothing to do with getting cheers, being cool, nothing. I'm going to kick your ass. I was a Golden Gloves boxer. I played in the NFL. I'm here to cash checks and kick your ass. That's my job. And I'll do whatever it takes to do that. And you know what? That seems simple. But it was a good foil for a lot of the guys down there and remained a good foil when he moved up. Hell, he retired Kurt Angle. Right choice or not, he's got that on his resume. And when he went back, as Rob just said, any experienced hand who gets sent to NXT to help younger talent is the highest of compliments. And he was fantastic in NXT. Ilya, Trick, the stuff he did with Braun. He probably deserves more credit than he gets for where Braun is at right now. Because Braun, and this will get glossed over because Braun's probably going to have a great career and is already off to a strong start on Raw. Braun had absolutely hit a character development wall in his second run as NXT champion before he eventually lost. And instead of bringing him right up after that, they did the stuff with him and Corbin. And it was interesting because you knew you had two heels who like to cause destruction, like to fight. But then they found common ground. They had that great promo where it was like, are they gonna be a great team? Or are they gonna fight right now? Like it went back and forth, and it brought something out of Braun that I don't think he was showing. And Braun's heel turn has now, from where he was at in NXT to now on Raw, it has gotten him to the point he needs to be at. And you know what? People will start to take to him more and more, and you will get a babyface turn out of Braun, and you'll get a good run out of Braun out of babyface. I believe that. That spear is too good. Some of his stuff is so good and so impactful and so fun to watch. That's going to get over at some point in time, which is fine. But Braun being able to cut promos, have a foil like Baron, who was his partner, but they still clashed, and, wolf dogs and all. It helped. It helped show Braun in a different light. And I think it gave Corbin something he could sink his teeth into. And when they brought him back up, I was bummed. And they didn't put him with Braun, and that was it. And then there was this, that last few months, this weird pseudo babyface Baron Corbin. And the other part of it was they sped through bum Corbin way too fast. They had gold with that character. And everybody played into it well. He got kicked in the balls, the stuff with KO. Kayla did great stuff with him. The stuff that they shot, where he had that, they did that TikToker of his worst day, and he was kicked. And then he had won a bunch of money, and that was it. And then JBL kind of rescued him, and then they changed his music, and it was like they left a down on his luck to the point that people were starting to feel bad for him. They left that on the table. He stole the briefcase. Like, they left, they had, remember E beat him and won the took the briefcase back. Like, they left that on the table. That was the only time there was a clear opening for Baron Corbin to be a babyface. And he crushed it. And I would have played it down the road where at some point he's fighting and people are backing him and he's still a bum and he loses and he loses and he loses. And then the people get behind him and you have a big heel just kind of shit on him. And then the crowd would have felt bad for him. And you could have run with that as he tries to get on a winning streak, to make his winnings back and earn his way back into. And then at some point, he gets there. And then I would have put JBL with him. Not call him a wrestling god. Let them just be rich a-holes. And they didn't do that. They changed his gear and his music, and he wasn't down and out for long enough. And I had a great time with him and JBL. When admittedly, I don't think that gimmick was hitting. But we had them on the bump and we played into it big. We had people deliver steaks and had pillows for their feet and cigars and treated them like they were acting. And we put it over. And they had a great time. JBL hit me up the week before because we had done a bunch of stuff on Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown. And he was great to work with. JBL was awesome. And believe me, I know all the stories. I thoroughly enjoyed, and admittedly surprisingly so, my time working with JBL. And, you know, he called me Max from the jump as a bit. And I sold it because it was just him being endearing. He was roping me in. I wasn't just the random generic host talking to him on the other side. And he wanted to play with it and he wanted to have fun and have a rapport. And we did. And he would always he still calls me Max. I talked to him a couple weeks ago. And he messaged me the day we announced he was going to be on the show. He goes, "Hey, anything you want to do, I'm game. Let's have fun." And this is a Hall of Famer, a world champ who could have called this, and he was fantastic. And we had a great time on that, and we always liked working with Baron, and he was always game to do. Great guest, great interview, way better in unscripted formats. As you're now seeing, I think, in the last couple of years on the social media with the cooking and the stuff with Chef Reactions, and hopefully those two guys get back together. I saw, Chef post about it. And Baron was right back to posting about food on, I think, on Saturday. So, I'm interested to see what he does next. I think there's a lot left for him in wrestling. I think AEW should absolutely take a look at him, especially for a guy whose size, who is such a great natural heel, who could be, I've seen the back and forth with him and MJF. I think they'd be a hell of a pair. I think there is money in that team, that pairing. And not to say that Corbin would have to be his heavy in just that. Corbin can absolutely wrestle as well. But I think someone with Corbin's size, just like Shelton Benjamin is standing out now, I think Corbin could be an asset. Not just because he's a former WWE guy. I wrote about this past week with Bobby Lashley for DraftKings. It's not about that. Because there are people that go, "Oh, I know him," and, Bobby Fish in AEW. He messed that up on his own. But it wasn't like there was a little bit of buzz because of where he was and Undisputed Era and all that stuff. And that went away. Certain men and women can make more of that. That can bring their fan base or bring their notoriety. I think Corbin can do that, but I think Corbin can be an asset to AEW because he is different than the majority of what they have, what he brings to the table. I think he'd be an easy guy to throw in there and get booed and get heat. And as I continue to say, the baby faces in AEW need obstacles and they need mountains to overcome. Big guys, big heels fill those roles. It's what they're trying to build with Bronson Reed. It's what they should now have in Bobby Lashley. Shelton Benjamin's not a small guy compared to the rest of AEW. That should help as well. But I think Corbin can help. I absolutely think he can help. So thinking of him, but I have confidence he will be just fine. So shout out to Tom. Um, and I don't know if I have Nixon, Tegan, super duper nice. Uh, the worst injury luck I've ever seen in wrestling in terms of long term injuries. Chelsea Green's had some bad luck with her wrist, but Nixon and the trials and tribulations she dealt with her knees, unfortunate, but she'll be okay too. And yeah, I didn't have much relationship with Indy, so I can't really speak too much on that. But hopefully, as you think about people that are not American citizens and visa stuff, that's kind of what I think of, because all of a sudden you got to figure it out quickly unless you get a new job to sponsor your visa. So just quickly on that. That was an aside. Rob, thanks for the shout out for Baron Corbin. So yeah, Baron Corbin, not in the company anymore, and is one of the last 5 people to beat Roman Reigns. But Solo is now the one to do so. But running that angle with Sammy, I think is well done and adds intrigue. And, you had 4 weeks. You didn't need everybody on the same page right away. It kind of overshadowed Solo getting a victory that is pretty damn elusive. The women's 4-way was fine. Throwing in the deep end for Lash and Jakar, I'll tell you that. All of a sudden, they're wrestling on a Saudi show. I'm just a big fan of Chelsea and Piper, and they were the stars of that match. I'm a little surprised we're not seeing more dissension with Bianca and Jade, but I guess they're not there yet, so whatever. Seth and Bronson was the wrong finish. Wrong. There is no way that after Bronson took out Seth on Raw, that Seth should have beat him clean on Saturday. Absolutely no way. I would have done the Cody finish in the match with Bronson. If you really wanted Seth to win, so you can keep that story going, and Bronson will probably attack him or something, and we'll get another match, and Bronson will win the next one. I would have had Seth just be 3 seconds better. Bronson slips on a banana peel. He goes, did something from the top or whatever, and Seth, that's fine. And then Bronson could have crushed him after. Bronson, sure, he survived one stomp. I get that. He survived getting stomped on a car hood on Monday. I really didn't like Seth winning that match. And I don't think Seth needed it. Also, I think it was a big miss to run that angle last Monday on Raw and know how much Bronson beat up Seth and not have Seth come out with tape or something. I thought it was the wrong call. Even if the story was going to continue, I still thought it was the wrong call. Bronson needed that win. He did not need to lose in the way he lost. I'm going to put the title matches together. LA winning, fine. Never thought that title was in jeopardy. He needs new challengers. There's no doubt about that. Those guys have run around each other too much for the last 2 months. That I was like, okay, and LA won after all that, so those guys can just keep fighting each other. So let's put these Crown Jewel useless championship matches together. In 8 minutes and 15 seconds, we saw Liv, Raquel, Dom, Nia, Tiffany, and the referee. In 8 minutes and 15 seconds, they did multiple Money in the Bank cash-in teases where Tiffany looked like a moron. They did Dom showing up, Raquel showing up. And they did all of that in a match that never looked like Liv Morgan should have been able to hang in there. They put Liv over. They had Nia lose. And they tried to make it like it was some big deal. Liv has won. Once again, this show was a nuisance for creative because you just had to beat Liv Morgan. You had to beat Nia Jax with Liv Morgan. I don't care that Dom and Raquel were involved. It wasn't like they did anything that big. And Liv got to pin Nia Jax, and it didn't look believable in the slightest. And it was such overbooked crap because they were trying to protect Nia. And they put more effort into protecting Nia Jax. And this is not a knock on Nia. Nia's done excellent work since coming back. She's been great in her role. She's always been similar to Corbin for me in that if I'm going to go out there to be a heel, I will do everything I can to get that heat. So when I eventually get toppled over, someone overcomes everything I throw at them, it means more. You've wanted to see Nia get beat. Nia getting taken down a peg. It was always like Corbin. Same thing. And she loses to someone who's a chicken shit heel. To crown the first ever Crown Jewel Women's Champion, blah, 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 blah. So you overbook the hell out of what they ended up making a special moment. To beat one of your champions who you built up as Queen of the Ring, as the one who defeated Bayley. And for what? For Liv to survive a cash-in, and now Liv wins a match to go back to Raw and not have Rhea there to battle with. But they did so much BS in that match to get away from a clean loss for Liv or for Nia. And yet, they did no shenanigans whatsoever. No interference, no cheating of note, no weapons, nothing. And somehow Cody outmaneuvers Gunther to beat him clean, to give him his second loss on the main roster by pinfall or submission. Clean. So let's throw all the bells and whistles and BS and interference and cash-ins and this and that to protect Nia. But let's have Cody outmaneuver Gunther and beat him. And not even 3 months into Gunther's World Championship reign, he has been defeated. It took 666 days to put him down. It took Sami Zayn a brain buster on the top rope, a move he never used in WWE before, to put Gunther down. And there will be people that say, well, Cody didn't beat him with his finish. It's just 3 seconds, whatever. He was right back up. Yeah, cool. I don't care. You beat him. You beat the guy who has shown nothing but dominance. I just went over the fact that Roman Reigns lost more times than Gunther did. And 3 months into his championship reign, you beat him for what? Cody's reign and Gunther's reign were built up so well to the moment when they finally won those championships, the crowning achievements in their career. Unbelievably impressive and dominant. Parallel, pretty much. So much time and effort and care put into their booking. And then you do that. And they're going to, people say, who cares? They're going to forget about it anyway. Good. Then don't book the match at all. You had an opportunity. If you're going to do all of that garbage in the women's match, despite it being for the first ever Crown Jewel Championship, and here's this ring and all this pomp and circumstance and propaganda after the show was over, you had no problem throwing all those bells and whistles and BS in the women's match. You couldn't have done that with Cody and Gunther if you really had to get a finish out of this, because you had to have this match happen. There couldn't have been KO and Randy involvement after the brawl they went through. Once again, a TV angle, a well-done TV angle, but you couldn't have had Cody somehow get mixed up in Kevin and Randy, or those two guys get mixed up in that match. Cody absolutely could have afforded that loss. You've already pinned Cody this year with Solo. Maybe that was part of the thought process. Oh, we already beat him with Solo. All right. Gunther needed that win way more than Cody. And they do all of it to do all of that garbage after the show is over of a very, and I don't know what he was told or not, but there's Cody and Liv sitting just, and as multiple people said to me, and I thought the same thing as I was doing the main event and post show on Bleacher Report. So Cody's just yakking it up and laughing with Liv from the Judgment Day, who he battled. Liv, who took out Rhea Ripley with a bat across her eye, apparently. He's just laughing it up, and they're smiling, and blah, blah, blah. There's a ring, and I get Cody being the company man, and here he is, and let me try to cut off the circulation in my finger by forcing this ring on it. He cuts this promo about, you put a championship in front of anybody right now, you know, they're going to be hungry for it, you know, even, you know, like something like this. That was all worth it. Propaganda, local garbage. Come see the WWE experience. Come see these championships that are going to sit here that no one's going to talk about until next October, November. How long will Cody be wearing that ring? Will we ever see it on television after this week? If he even wears it at all. Will Liv have it on Raw tonight and we never see it again? And I say all that to say, they did all of that BS. And Gunther takes a loss. They beat Roman and Gunther in the same night. Think about that. Two things that never happen. Never happened. Happened on the same night. Happened in the same show. You would think you would want those two moments to get the full spotlight or the majority of the spotlight. And instead, a Roman loss happens to open the show and gets overshadowed. And I don't want to hear, well, good, they kind of hid the fact that he lost. No, you shouldn't be hiding a Roman loss. You shouldn't. It should be a big deal. And it became it was not the lead to that story. The lead was Sammy coming out there and showing the first signs of reforming the OG bloodline and then kicking Roman in the face by mistake. B-May says, do you think they wanted to do that, or was that a Saudi deal type of thing? Here's what I would say. I think they are aware of what Saudi wants. I think they are aware of the expectations. And I think they cater to that because they think it's good business. Whether they were forced into it, I don't know if that's the right way I would put it, influenced into doing it, I happen to think that they were just getting out ahead. Hey, this is what the kind of stuff, very generically, what the kind of big things they want. Okay, let's give them that. Or perhaps the Saudi entertainment, whoever gives feedback to WWE might have said, hey, you do King and Queen of the Ring every year. What if we had our own thing? Could we have this? And that conversation could have absolutely happened as well. And that is the nature of doing business over there and with them. But you can't tell me it's a good idea to beat Roman and Gunther on the same night. You can't tell me that's a good idea. You can't convince me of that. It's not. Those are monumental things. And they're monumental things because they've been booked that way, and correctly so. You put all that effort, good, positive, money-making effort into Roman and Gunther. So you want their losses to be big deals because it doesn't happen often. You want it to be a special thing. You made it a special thing when Jay pinned Roman. You had announced, Cole put it over like it was like, oh my God, the king is dead. You built up Gunther's streak. You had Chad Gable dig deep and lose in front of his family. And he takes out Rey Mysterio and Shinsuke Nakamura and Ricochet. And he beats Drew 2 different times. And he has one of the greatest WrestleMania debuts of all time, if not the best, in defeating Sheamus and Drew McIntyre in an outstanding match. You finally give him a loss to put over Sami Zayn, to have him win King of the Ring, to have him defeat Damian Priest. By the way, not clean. You have him beat Sami. You have him beat Randy Orton. And then you beat him in a match that didn't have the stakes that should have been presented for Gunther to take a loss. B-May says, I thought they had the perfect setup to do the Goldberg and Gunther thing to cover up the loss, but they didn't, and Saudi loves Goldberg. Goldberg was at College Game Day announcing his retirement match, which, will it be against Gunther? Who knows? Who's to say he won't have 2 matches? And I would be thrilled to see Gunther. I saw Ziggler tweet about this. He said, hit spear and jackhammer, and Gunther should kick out at 1 and beat him 3 minutes later. Yes, I would like to see that. I would have no problem, though, if Goldberg had a match after that where he goes out on top and you want to see this. I don't have a problem with that. That's who he was. Bryan Danielson went out on his back. That's who he was. Goldberg was known to be dominant. He should win his last match, and it shouldn't be against Gunther. But they had that. They had that as well. If you want to throw in all the bells and whistles, like I said, you did it to protect Nia Jax. You don't do it for Gunther, where you have stuff built in, whether it be Goldberg or Kevin or Randy, whatever. was a glorified, skippable house show. They ran 2 good television angles. I love the KO and Randy thing. As soon as I went, oh, they're not having a match. I said to them, I go, oh, this is not going to be a match. As soon as I saw that second referee, they kind of gave it away. Because I was like, wait, why are there 2 refs out here? Oh, no, he's coming to break this up because they're not having a match. And they didn't. They did a great brawl, and Kevin's great, and there's that, the conspiracy brain of his. And like I said, I think Kevin and Sammy can get reconnected as enemies because of Sammy finding his way back to the Usos and likely the Bloodline in the next month. But they had 2 solid TV angles. That's what that show was. I can believe, but I shouldn't be saying that you don't have to go back and watch Gunther and Cody. Think about that. If I had told you, here you go, when Cody and Gunther were at the end of the 2023 Royal Rumble, when they were there at the end, and Gunther goes 71 minutes and sets the record as Intercontinental Champion. The only other real loss he's taken. Cody coming out at 30 takes him out. Everybody expected Cody and Gunther to be a big match down the line. I thought he was winning Mania last year, and I would have had him and Gunther at SummerSlam. They didn't do that, and it took a year for Cody to win that title. And, of course, him and Gunther end up on different shows, and Gunther wins the world title, and they're away from each other. That's fine. I just can't believe that after what they did and the trajectories that they were on, when you go back to Rumble last year, where it felt like a championship clash was inevitable, that I would tell you that the next time those 2 guys meet will be the main event of a pay-per-view, and there's really nothing about it that has enough reason for you to go, I gotta go watch that. Sure, it's fine. But in the grand scheme of things, no. It's really not worth your time to watch Cody and Gunther. Not on either one of those guys. Honestly, knowing what the finish was, I'm happy they didn't go all out. Listen, if that's what it was, that's what they're booking. If you accept that, even if you don't like it, if you accept that, then I don't want them to have the match I know that they're capable of and waste it. I'd rather the stakes matter more. I hope this stays in the rearview mirror and we go right on to Survivor Series. Skippable propaganda house show. We'll cover the Saudi Raw tonight, tomorrow. And if you don't know, there is no NXT tomorrow night. They are running head-to-head with AEW on Wednesday from the 2300 Arena, a.k.a. the ECW Arena, to stay off of election night here in the United States. I am trying to figure out the schedule to cover all that the next couple of days, so stay tuned. But I will definitely be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern live for Matt members, 5 p.m. Eastern for everybody else, whether you're watching here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Please subscribe to YouTube for free. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you get them, thanks to our friends at the Believe Network, for free. And become a Matt member so you can watch the show live with everybody else. Please leave your comments below. What did you feel about Crown Jewel? Am I wrong completely? Do you agree with me? Am I overrating Roman and Gunther losing? A lot of good chats here today. And as always, you can find me on social media at The Matt Camp, Instagram, Twitter, at WrestlingMatt23. Please follow us there. Please go to ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMatt. Get a shirt, but also make sure you check out what Pro Wrestling Tees is doing for Chris Bay. I don't like to promote GoFundMe's very often, but I would say just go read his, and you can make the decision. But there you go. So we will be back tomorrow. live at 11 a.m. Eastern for the members, 5 p.m. Eastern for everybody else. Thanks to the guys in the chat for being with me here. B. May, Nerdy Dude, Rob, everybody else. I will see you tomorrow, and we'll be talking about wrestling even more right here on the Wrestling